Hey guys, Shadowz here, welcome back to another Gears of War E-Day video. Today we're going to be discussing Cliff Bleszinski's reaction, thoughts and opinions on Gears of War E-Day. Cliff Bleszinski was the creator and design director of the first 3 Gears of War games and played a key pivotal role at Epic Games throughout the development of the original Gears of War trilogy. His vision and leadership helped shape the series' signature gameplay, iconic narrative storytelling and creative vision direction to become a multi-billion-dollar gaming franchise 20 years later, solidifying Gears of War as a defining series for the Xbox brand and leaving behind a forever lasting impact on the design of modern third-person shooters, online console gaming to the video game industry in general. With the Gears of War E-Day announcement made by the Coalition Studio at the Xbox Game Showcase, I wanted to share the ex-design director and creator Cliff Bleszinski's reaction, thoughts and opinions on Gears of War E-Day. Just like Gears of War fans, Cliff Bleszinski was patiently waiting every year for a brand new Gears of War game announcement, checking in with Twitter on every Xbox Game Showcase and major gaming event, whether or not the Coalition Studio had announced the next new Gears of War game, as seen in the following. In December 2022, Cliff shared the rough direction he wanted to take the Locust after the end of the original Gears of War trilogy, which we covered and discussed already in a video on the YouTube channel, which you can go check out right now if you missed it. But then he followed up by asking the online community what's the over-under on Gears news at the Game Awards anyways. In June 2023, Cliff straight up shouted to Twitter, "No Gears 6 announced, WTF," being very surprised there was no Gears of War announcement, but of course the Coalition Studio were just cooking. In October 2023, Cliff Bleszinski tweeted and deleted, "Heard a rumor today from my friend who wrote Gears 5 about the future of the franchise and let's just say you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention." In June 2024, the Coalition officially announced a brand new prequel mainline game with Gears of War E-Day, taking us all the way back to Emergence Day when the Locust Horde invaded the surface of planet Sera from the Hollows below, as Marcus Phoenix and Dominic Santiago are set to return as the main protagonist characters, with as well as John DiMaggio and Carlos Ferro confirmed to be reprising their roles as the iconic Brothers to the End duo. Cliff Bleszinski immediately took to Twitter to share his honest reaction and first impressions on Gears of War E-Day in the following. "Chills, back to basics, gives the people what they want, Dom and Marcus. Plenty of room for set pieces moments. See, they didn't need me, y'all. Did you notice the Little Mad World chords in it too? Bravo." Probably going to have a heart-wrenching scene where we see Dom rushing to save Maria before she gets taken. Notice the Welcome Home banner, clearly fresh off the Pendulum Wars. Prologue might be a chapter in the Pendulum Wars. Awesome to see Marcus struggle with what must be his first Locust kill. Ooh, wonder how the Hammer of Dawn is going to fit in too. Also probably going to start with the Retro Lancer and have a whole bit where they show how the chainsaw gun came to be. They need a sideline from an NPC like, "Yeah, but shotgun's more efficient." Oh, I think that upon rewatching it, the first music is from the scene where Dom kills Maria. Now since then, Cliff Bleszinski has appeared on multiple different gaming podcasts discussing his opinions on Gears of War E-Day, sharing the news of John and Carlos returning as the voice actors for Marcus and Dom, stating that he has faith in the Coalition Studio to deliver with Gears of War E-Day. He goes into further detail as featured on both the Xbox Expansion Pass interview and the Dan Allen Gaming podcast.
The Gears stuff doesn't really bother me that much. I think Gears 4 and 5 were really solid. I think they lacked a little bit of the heart that 1, 2, and 3 had. Maybe because I wasn't consulting or working on them. But I think, when I saw the trailer for E-Day, I think it was a master class. It was a master stroke to just pivot the franchise for a little bit. And, that when, Marcus is going to fall and the hand comes out and you realize it's Dom saving him, whereas Dom in Gears 3 saved Marcus and the crew. And then a little bit of, Mad World kicks in. I got goosebumps. And so we're sitting at the signing booth in Artist's Alley signing copies of Scrapper, and people are coming up with some Gears stuff too. And like, whatever, I'll sign anything. And this woman comes up. She must have been like mid-50s. And she starts crying to me and saying that Gears of War literally saved her life. And I was like,
how do you not cry?
Well, that's the thing is I started crying too. My mirror neurons were firing, right? And I was like, oh my God. And I signed all her stuff. Like, do you want a hug? And I gave her a hug. And, that's what it's really all about. People getting tattoos and all that stuff, the fandom in a good way. Right. And, every community seemingly always turns toxic, which breaks my heart. Not a day goes by when somebody tweets me or posts to my public Facebook that make Gears great again. I've been quite open about the fact that I'd be happy to consult, and it's crickets.
I'm guessing you knew about Gears E-Day before that.
I did not, dude. I don't talk to anybody.
Wow. So you saw it when everyone else did. That trailer.
Yeah. And I think it's a fucking brilliant move on their part. Again, giving the people what they want. The potential for set pieces is amazing. Set pieces. with E-Day. And
Yes.
leaving Epic, like, I was just happy I didn't have to argue with programmers about creative decisions ever again. Because
Was that what started to happen?
well, I remember when I proposed first the Locust coming out from the underground, and one of the programmers was like, really smart guy, young at the time. He's like, I don't buy it, and I'm like, why? He's like, well, how did they get there? I'm like, that's part of the fucking mystery, dude. You know, it's a random alien planet. It's not even Earth. And then, of course, that unspooled over the course of how, you know, the K-Tiff wound up being, you know, ushered away, and how they were, you know, mutants from emulsion and things like that. And you know, you don't want to do the J.J. Abrams pyramid scheme of storytelling where you answer one question and then ask three more, right? Because that inevitably collapses on itself. Um, but the thing is you know, with Gears 4, when I was working on it, when I was still at Epic, I wanted to have the Locust, you know, because they were like, you know, they all the emulsion vanished, you know, all the lambents, you know, poof, done, and the Locust all just collapsed. They went into stasis, and then you know the idea was that they were covered in these kind of like crystalline shells. Well, the idea was that it was a chrysalis, and the idea is they were grubs, and then they would become not butterflies, but you know they would evolve, you know. And so basically, the pitch was, you know, before they came from below, now they come from above, and they, you know, they'd attack you with wings coming from above, and you know, there's so much potential with that, where they're coming out with these vestigial limbs, trying to stab you. You shoot them, they try and fly away. You shoot them down, and you see the bullet holes in the wings and things like that. There's just so many possibilities with it. But you look at Batista, and then he actually donned the Gears armor and did a video. I think he'd be a great Marcus.
Now I'm curious. We've got you here to talk about the trailer for Gears of War E-Day.
I think you know, for everybody up at the Coalition, it has to be a great moment because you know, they're, as I said in my tweet, they're giving the people what they want. JD and Dell and the whole cast of 4 and 5, and they're good characters, but it seems like from me sitting way back, they didn't resonate quite as hard as the original Delta Squad, but also expand your audience. So, you know, have a good mix of the old and the new. I mean, Marcus showing back up, you know, Baird showing back up was a good idea with 4 and 5. I think killing Anya was like an Alien 3 style of mistake where they killed off like Newt and everybody, but that's neither here nor there. My reactions to the trailer, honestly, it felt weird because I actually got goosebumps from something I was instrumental in creating. And I think they played the Gears base perfectly. Upon watching it for the third time, I put 2 and 2 together. That when Marcus is struggling with that drone, and again, Coalition, it's Locust, not locusts. To see Marcus struggling like that, but the music, I was like, wait a minute. And I rewatched the Maria scene with Dom and Maria, and I was like, they reused that music basically to kind of call back to that, even if the fans didn't realize it initially. And then, you know, the little few chords of Mad World that kicked in right as, you know, Dom rescued Marcus kind of dovetails it back into Dom's sacrifice in Gears of War 3. I just got goosebumps telling you that right now. Catch feels from something that you were instrumental in creating when it's been passed off. And at the end of the day, you know, Gears was my baby, and it's good to know that, you know, my baby's in good hands. I mean, the fact that it was a sloppy fight, right? And you know, there's like the little Easter eggs in the background. You know, you see the newspaper that says the war's over, again referring to the Pendulum Wars. You see the welcome home banner, and you know, the please stand by, indicating that, you know, some crap's going down. You know, and the fact that he grabs the TV and smashes the drone with it, that better be an in-game move, by the way. TV smashing in the head is the new curb stomp. And there's people are like, well, you know, are Baird and Cole going to be in there? And it's like Marcus and Dom didn't meet Baird and Cole until Gears 1, which was like 14 years after E-Day. So what I'm suspecting is there might be kind of a separate side plot of Baird and Cole doing their thing. I suspect that the first chapter is actually going to depict the Pendulum Wars. Because players have wanted that. And people don't realize Pendulum Wars was just an idea I pulled out of my butt on a random Tuesday, right? It was one of those things that's like, okay, you know, understanding what I knew about Star Wars, where, you know, Lucas, you know, referenced the Clone Wars. I don't know if he necessarily knew what the Clone Wars were at that time, but the thing I've learned about IP development is sometimes throw an idea in there. Even if you don't know what it is, we'll figure it out later. Whomever is creatively responsible over at Coalition, I think, is really kind of put themselves in a great situation. I mean, even the way they went back to Gears of War, and I saw it's just Gears of War, and then boom, E-Day kind of reminds me of the logo from The Boys, which comes back, I think, tomorrow. Just the way it's like, boom, The Boys, you know, and it's like, and then you can see the reaction videos, people like, oh, geez, you know, like that kind of thing. You know, just you want to get gums flapping. You want to get people talking on YouTube and Twitch. That's the new world order in which we live.
When you were writing the first Gears, and to your point of referencing, George Lucas and Star Wars, the Clone Wars, when you worked on the first one, did you have an idea or the possibility that prequels could be made in your mind, or was in your mind at the time Gears of War was the first Gears?
Gears of War was the first Gears. However, there's a reason why we set it years after E-Day.
Mm-hmm.
And in the opening cinematic, we had the scene of the people at, like, the outdoor cafe, very Paris, and then boom, Locust, surprise attack, very much similar to Pearl Harbor, right?
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the namesake returning, Gears of War, and I think that kind of illustrates that exact metaphor. It's no longer, or it's not Gears as it was in Gears 5. It's Gears of War. When you saw that, did that resonate with you in any way, shape, or form?
Initially, when they just went with just Gears, I was like, okay, that's kind of like how Grand Theft Auto can just use that font and do like 6, and everyone's like, I know that.
Mm-hmm.
But Gears is big, but Grand Theft Auto is exponentially bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And GTA can get away with that. To go with just Gears, in hindsight, I think may have been a little bit cocky.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a certain game designer who was loved and hated throughout his career. I think just basically, like I said in my tweet, it's going back to basics. And I'm just curious to see, like, they're going to do executions. I've actually read an interview with one of the creatives over the Coalition, because I surmise that, okay, they're probably going to go with the origin of the Chainsaw Lancer, because there's going to be a cutscene where, like, these creatures, their skin's too tough. We need to find a way to get through it. And hopefully there's going to be like a Evil Dead style, like, where gets put together. Thank God we're not gonna have any more robots. The Gears fans do not want robots, people.
When Gears first came out, you guys really touched on it being dark, nightmarish, violent, gritty. For the sequel, the theme, and I can remember you vividly saying bigger, better, and more badass in one of the first like documentaries Xbox Live shared. Gears 3 perhaps more into the bigger, better, more badass than horror. But it seems like with E-Day, we're going back to those franchise roots. Did you pick up on that tone as well?
Absolutely. I think as the franchise went on with 1, 2, and 3, we let a little bit more color bleed into the palette. And I think, that made it more accessible to a wider crowd, but it also kind of lost some of the stylization. Gears had elements of horror, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, the Berserker coming at you. A lot of people basically crap their pants. You look at, the wretches kind of being teased in, first encounter with Locust, like all of it. The Corpser, running away from that when you're as you're exiting the prison in the first Gears. The idea has always been that the Hollow is kind of like the oceans on Earth, right? They still discover multiple species at multiple depths in the ocean to this day, right? And we've been exploring the ocean for how long? It's like one of those things that the Hollow is meant to be this ecosystem, kind of like the whole Hollow Earth theory, and basically how, like, anything could have evolved down there. And then you have these locusts that were these outcasts that were sent, fled underground, and then evolved in their own way, and turned out they became this kind of military force, and they were ready to seek their vengeance and reclaim the surface.
You are getting a lot of love in chat for that Berserker fight, and I've seen Mad Mo and Trophy Room and many others saying that they are on Xbox because of Gears of War. So you did something special with that, for sure.
Well, that was the goal. Was Microsoft, didn't have a Halo at the time. Halo was kind of the flagship franchise for Xbox, and Microsoft came to us. We had Unreal Engine 3 coming online, and they're like, "Hey, do you have something for us?" And I was like, "We just might." And a lot of people bought an Xbox 360 because of Gears. Of course, we actually cost Microsoft a lot of money when Tim Sweeney went to them and said, "No, this thing needs more RAM. It's not going to be enough in order to pull off what we want." And that's the thing is, Microsoft has an interesting new strategy these days where they're trying to be the Netflix of video games. It seems like they're gunning for less hardware centric content, and just kind of Halo remaster is going to be on the new PlayStation, right? Like, it's crazy to think about, like, how the whole console wars thing is over.
They say, how would you feel seeing Gears in the form of a collection or whatnot on PlayStation? As the creator and someone who had to argue Tim Sweeney and the Xbox brass to get you that RAM, does it bother you in any way to see it on another platform, or is it more celebratory that more people?
I don't see why it would bother me. I mean, the more the merrier. The more people who play the experience that we work so hard on that get to enjoy it and become fans, the better. maybe you'll get some PlayStation fans that get Gears of War tattoos because Gears of War tattoos became a big thing. And it's one of those things that I just think we're in the era of, eyeballs equals money. And so, Phil Spencer's a very savvy, charismatic businessman. He's a good dude. And I think he knows what he's doing, very much so. And, Game Pass is for the dime for dime is actually a really good value.
I fully agree. Fully agree. I'm going to loop us back to the trailer itself, because that's why you were kind enough to come on. But also, that horror vibe does take us back to the early days of Gears. Now, what I thought was interesting is that Marcus was fighting one locust drone, just one. And it was messy, as you said. It wasn't a swarm, it was a locust drone, and that locust drone was threatening. And that makes me feel like this is a monstrosity they were not prepared for. And it just touchstones on that early Gears vibe.
Well, I mean, Marcus, towards the end of Gears 3, just basically was just kind of like a killing machine where he's just like mowing through like hordes of drones. And the drones were no longer scary. They were cannon fodder at that point, even though they still had a lot of hit points, right? I'll never forget when my friend Randy Pitchford came out and played Gears 1. He's like, okay, I get what you're going for. You're making a grinder here. That's where active reload came in to make your bullets more powerful, and getting close, use the chainsaw, etc. And that's the thing is, I just love how sloppy the fight was, and the fact that you could tell Marcus was caught, off guard, right? And the fact that it's going to be an uphill fight for them. This is a completely new enemy. They're used to fighting squishy little humans in the Pendulum Wars. They're not used to these creatures that have incredibly thick skin that are just intelligent savages. And it was just very compelling to see that. I want to see the motion capture behind the scenes of that, because it was very well choreographed. And then when Marcus finally gets a handle on things and realizes headshot, right? And then they have that close up shot of like the neck stump of the drone, reminding people like Gears is M-rated, Gears is gory. We're going to bring the gore as well. There's so many like multiple layers that they were saying with that trailer in a good way. It's literally feels like a love letter to the core Gears fans, while also, reminding people that, this franchise it's big, it's out there. And, my brother told me one time that the best drug in the world is nostalgia. And I've had so many people with the games that I've worked on over the course of my career tell me, Jazz Jackrabbit was my childhood, Unreal Tournament was my childhood, Gears of War was my childhood. I think, if you play to that, you look at the recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, right? And like so many of us grew up with the different eras of TMNT, and, all the way through the crappy Michael Bay ones, right? But still, like the 80s and 90s cartoon, with the animated version. It's the ones with the guys in the suit, the movies, right? Like nostalgia is powerful, and I think the people at the coalition of Microsoft are realizing that, and they're leaning into that.
Well, I mean, that brings me to my next question. Obviously, you have some strong attachments to Dom and Marcus. When you saw those heroes take center stage in that trailer, chills, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it goes back to the phrase that we used, brothers to the end. Right. And when you see that hand reach down, you're just like, oh geez. And I still, to this day, once in a while I'll go look up Dom's sacrifice on YouTube, and or Dom putting down Maria, and I see that we made grown men cry. And that's the thing I always say is, guys, it's okay to cry.
The story of Emergence Day, it's something that's been talked about in nearly every variant of Gears lore, comic book, novels, the games themselves. How monumental is the task they have ahead of them now to create the game of E-Day?
Well, the gameplay, of course, is the thing. But the thing is the E-Day has the potential for tons of set pieces. And I tweeted that, I better see a lot of civilians getting murked. There's so many possibilities of just, showing the horrors of war. It's like every time you see an actual war, there's always the one AP photograph of like a bloody child's shoe in the rubble, right? Like for some reason, that's like a thing to show the horrors of war, right? And I really hope that the horror isn't just, the locust. The horror is the fact that war is hell. Whatever they can do, in my opinion, to depict the horrors of war itself, I think would be a really compelling direction. And, Yeah, they never contacted me to consult, so I'm giving all the stuff out for free. But it is what it is. All I can do is offer my support and remind people of my past so I can redirect them towards my future. Gears of War 1 came out of the fall of my first marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I put that energy and that anger into Gears 1, and I think it kind of came out of it. And I think there's a reason why Gears 3 kind of is cool and badass as it was. The art director Chris lightened things up a little bit. I think he could kind of sense that I was, with my forever person Lauren, and I was in a far better place at that point.
What do you hope to see in Gears of War E-Day? Maybe it's not just the brutalities of war, but is there a specific moment or a scene that you hope your characters relive or have? Is there anything in particular you're hoping to see with Gears?
I want to see Marcus and Dom further bond, right? I want to see some of the war from the perspective of a child. I've mentioned this in prior interviews. I think it'd be great to not only once Dom start getting a handle on okay, we can murk these locusts. We can, because the first bit's going to be really, really sloppy, I imagine, right? They're going to have a hard time dealing with the locusts. And that trailer also implies it's going to be a deeper melee system. I don't know if that's actually going to come through in gameplay, but we'll see. But it'd be really, really cool to alternate to a child's perspective, going through E-Day, and just all the child can do is do the whole throw a rock to just distract a locust and just try and do stealth segments, right? And, the whole cycle of empowerment versus losing that power. I think that could be really, really compelling, because to be a child in wartime, I think would be just horrible, growing up with that. And it's one of those things that I believe that a good video game like that can go through the cycle of empowerment, where once you finally started getting a handle on your powers, like everything in life, it's pacing. Pacing is everything, and I hope it's paced well. And there better be multiplayer also. Somebody mentioned that on Steam. It doesn't say it's going to have multiplayer on there, so that scares me, because multiplayer is the long tail of keeping a game alive. Gears 1 almost didn't have multiplayer, and I think that's what actually helped keep the community going. Because the thing is, if you can shoot a bad guy in a game, you're going to want to shoot your friends. Horde mode saved the franchise, because when Gears 2 launched, the versus multiplayer was completely broken. The matchmaking was just hosed. And then people just okay, well, I'm just going to do Horde mode.
Are you planning to play Gears of War E-Day on day one? Are you planning to play it at all? Or is that a chapter that's closed enough for now that you don't enjoy playing them?
When Gears of War E-Day comes out, I think I'll definitely be giving that one a go. I started Gears 5, got a couple hours into it, but I found that the sensitivity and the friction and adhesion and all that, the core loop of the controls, felt a little slippery to me. And that's something I've always been a stickler for. So I didn't really stick with it. I wound up just watching the cutscenes and some certain action moments on YouTube. But I'll definitely be picking up E-Day. I'm happy that Carlos Ferro and John DiMaggio are getting more paid gigs, because they're some of the hardest working people in the VO biz.
And extremely talented at that.
And they're really, really good at engaging with the community too. They go to so many conventions, they'll sign all the autographs, do all of the stuff, and they're just great guys and great actors. I mean, you think about the Dom and Maria scene, the way Carlos delivered that, Marcus, I don't know what to do, and Dom, it's okay, right? That whole back and forth just still to this day gives me goosebumps. And just in hindsight, it's kind of comedic the way the Bolt Hog is revealed. Because it's he's the poor dude.
Huge.
The poor dude has to put down his wife, and he's using the Dirty Harry pistols to do it. Yeah, but it is what it is. But I hope Maria gets a little bit more of a screen time. Thing is, knowing how it ends, and to play this E-Day, and to know Dom's eventually gonna have to kill his wife, he's gonna have to sacrifice himself, Anya's gonna die. Even Marcus meets Anya in the first Gears, right? But to know all the stuff's gonna go down adds this sense of foreboding that I really hope they can kind of double down on.
Overall, Cliff Bleszinski is just like every hardcore Gears of War fan that still has that fiery energy inside them, and it's amazing that you can still see Cliff is super passionate about Gears, even after all of these years no longer working on the gaming franchise. Just like Cliff, us as a gaming community have all been patiently waiting for a new Gears of War, and now that we finally have Gears of War E-Day officially announced, Gears of War is going to be the biggest it's been in over a decade, since the ending of the original trilogy. And while Gears of War E-Day is already shaping up to be a huge return to what Gears of War was in 2006, and not only will the franchise be changed forever by E-Day, all the original Epic Game developers like Cliff Bleszinski will have their hard work on the first 3 Gears of War games recognized and appreciated once again by another wave of all new Gears of War players experiencing the games and stories for the very first time. Please make sure to leave me a comment down below telling me what you think. What is your opinion on Cliff Bleszinski's reaction, thoughts, and opinions on Gears of War E-Day? Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already. If you do enjoy my Gears of War content and want to see even more videos, there is a playlist on my YouTube channel containing all of my other Gears of War E-Day videos so far. If you do want to check out more like this one, click the join button to become a YouTube channel member to gain access to emotes, channel badges, and most importantly, early access to all new videos before anyone else. I want to give a big shout out to all the members on screen for becoming a Shadow Knight YouTube channel member. I truly appreciate your support. So there you have it, guys. Full details on ex-creator Cliff Bleszinski on Gears of War E-Day. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, I shall see you in the next one.